All right. Good afternoon. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining the 13th edition of Success Spotlight. Today, we have a little bit of a unique one. Over the past 12 sessions, of course, we've brought agents on to talk about their best practices when it comes to hiring. And today, we have one of IdealTraits' very own to talk about over the last 6.5 years that Faith has been with the organization. It'll be 7 years in July. So, in the question and answer in the chat, so congratulations to Faith, I suppose a little bit early. But outside of that, Faith on a day-to-day basis serves as our hiring services manager. So she specializes in meeting with agents just like yourself and walking through and talking through what it takes to be successful when it comes to helping you find more qualified candidates faster. Okay. More qualified candidates faster. So if you're wondering, and if you're on this, which I'm sure that's why you registered and why you're attending, how do I get more qualified candidates and how do I make it happen faster? That is going to be the narrative that we talk through today. Bringing together some statistics for you, as well as some best practices, some things that you should be doing, some things that we see that people probably shouldn't be doing. And we're going to work through that together. But Faith, I'm getting you a little long-winded on this introduction. Faith works for IdealTraits remotely, lives in the great state of South Carolina. And again, as I mentioned before, has been here for 6.5 years, has 3 ginormous dogs. So not a small dog person. I'm sure she'll tell us a little bit more about that. And truly, one of the go-to resources, in my opinion, for someone who's looking to get advice, recommendations, or any type of consulting on their hiring process. Faith is the person to talk to. So, Faith Daly, thank you for being our 13th guest of Success Spotlight. Welcome.
Thanks, Nolan. What a great introduction. Excited. Yes, like you said, not a small dog owner. Can't do it. Got
Uh,
a husky, a German shepherd, and a Great Dane. So I'm a big dog gal. So
Bingo. All right, cool. Well, Faith, as we do with every Success Spotlight, if you want to tell us a little bit more about your background, I know I mentioned 6.5 years or so like 4 times now, but if
mhm.
you want to talk through a little bit about that, how you obviously started with IdealTraits and the positions that you've done, the work that you've done with, our clients and the businesses that we work with, and a little bit more about what you do today.
Yeah, so started actually in customer service. I worked with Lisa and very beginning I worked with Jeff Safaya. He's one of our great salespeople here. And then I moved fully into customer service with Lisa. She's another great rep that we have on the team. So I spent a few years there learning all of the ins and outs of Ideal Traits and the platform and tips and tricks and all of the things, learning about all of the different clients that we have and things like that. And then I actually moved into professional services where we had a little bit of a white glove service, kind of managing client accounts, things like that. I was there for a couple of years. And then we actually created our retention department. So I worked that with Kelly, actually. Again, another great rep on the Ideal Traits team. Worked in retention for a couple of years, really just helping candidate or clients continue their accounts ultimately. So worked there for a while. And then we started the virtual hiring assistant program, actually. So I've been doing that now for about 2 years, a little over 2 years. So doing that, and that is kind of more of a hands-on approach to the client accounts where we help with candidate engagement, job ad analysis, custom job ads, hiring consultants, all of the good things. Shane and I work on that together. We do have a team behind us. I do not do it by myself. We have a whole team behind us that does it. I am not a one-woman show, so very appreciative of them. But now I'm in virtual hiring assistant. We run that, and that's more of like what we call our white glove service now, I suppose. So.
Sure. Yeah. There's probably some people on here that have been using IdealTraits for a long time who are just using it
Mhm.
for the assessment or maybe just using it for the job posting and are looking ways to get more out of the investment that they're making for IdealTraits. And virtual hiring assistant, of course, will be something that we discuss. But a lot of people that you mentioned that have been here for a long time, right? Jeff, 9 years, Lisa, 8 years. I think you mentioned Kelly and a couple other folks that have been here for almost half a decade, right? So a lot of people that you've worked with and have been able to, I'm sure, learn from and then also teach along that path too. But all right. So for some of you that are, or for all of you that are wondering sort of what our agenda for the next 30 to 40 minutes is going to be, we're going to talk to you a lot of the similar things that you're used to hearing on Success Spotlight. We're going to talk about, what needs to be included in an attractive job ad in order to make it successful. We're going to talk about what it takes to promote that job ad. What does budgeting look like? Sponsorship is a common topic that we talk about a lot here on Success Spotlight. We're going to get into that. What Faith sees from all the different agents that she works with. Of course, it's going to look different for each of you. But of course, some of examples that I'm sure we're going to be able to pull from there. We're also going to talk about effective candidate communication. Okay. Research shows that about 48% of candidates feel as if their time is disrespected during an interview process. So, what this tells us is that how can we go about our process to make sure candidates feel as if their time is valued? So then we have more candidates making their way through the process, right? And each of you have a different process. So we'll talk about a couple of different things that you can try, implement, and work towards to be able to, again, have as many candidates as possible feel as if their time is being respected. And then, of course, the main thing we're going to talk about is wrapping all of these things together to make sure that you're finding good qualified candidates faster. Okay. So things like job market research, consulting are also things that we're going to talk about too as well. But of course, is the first stage, working with agents day in and day out. I'm sure you work with agents in all different levels of their hiring. Some that are doing it for the first time, maybe have been trying to do it for a little bit and just really don't know where to go. And some maybe that are more of experts and don't necessarily need as much of your help, right? Not that your help isn't great, but they're a little bit more well versed in what they're doing with their recruiting on a day-to-day basis. So talk to us about that beginning stage of creating a job ad. What do the conversations look like that you have with agents? And when you're putting together a job ad, what's important to know, what's important to input?
Yeah, so everybody's going to be unique. You could have you could have two different clients looking for a sales representative, but what that sales representative does in their office is going to be totally different potentially. So learning what exactly that means in their office is most important. The biggest thing that we really emphasize though is what's separate about your office. Is special about the environment that they're in, right? What makes you guys unique? Is it weekly lunches as a team? Is it ringing a gong every time you make a sale? There's everybody is quirky and unique. And I gave that example because somebody does it. So I have heard it before. Um, Uniqueness is probably the number one thing is what sets you guys apart from another office. So I would say start with uniqueness and then move on to the actual responsibilities. What are the best 5 to 7 that you can think of that they're going to spend 95% of their day doing? And then you can start building, of course, the job description from there.
Yeah. And in that process, there's, again, I think the main point of that is the uniqueness, right? Like the
Mhm.
personalization. Where
Yeah.
do you Is that where you see most people sort of getting tripped up, or where do you see most people having most difficulty with any of those things you mentioned?
I would say one big thing is trying to take, they have to do 5 to 10 quotes a day and turning that into, like, a full sentence, right? So how to, uh, you know, expand on that. So I would say that would be one of them. The job description and really giving imagery or using imagery to talk about the office is probably the number one most difficult. Everybody really wants to kinda keep it short and sweet, but that doesn't really give the candidate the opportunity to learn more about the office prior to them actually applying, completing the assessment, video interview, whatever that your interview process looks like. That's their first impression of you. So I would
Yeah.
say, yeah, making sure that you have that uniqueness in there. Instead of keeping it short and sweet, tell them about your office. Tell them what makes you guys unique. So,
I mean, I know one of my strong suits in creating job ads, you know, hired not over we were, 10, 15 people over the last 2 or 3 years, and I've never written a job ad. Because of course, Faith, you and your team do a fantastic job
I
too.
was just gonna say we have a bet on that.
Cool. Well, yeah. All right, cool. So yeah, again, we hear that a lot, success behind past 12 guests, highlight what makes your agency specific, your process, what you're looking for in your next best employee from an expectation standpoint is different from, probably the agency down the road. But then in addition to that too, as well, what your agency, more importantly, I would argue, has to offer to a top candidate is going to look different. And some top candidates are going to like it. Other top candidates are going to prefer another setup, but making sure that you're creating an environment that is hopefully attractive to as many people as possible is what I'm getting at and sort of what I'm hearing from you. Yes, Faith?
I would even say sometimes some clients are even afraid to put, a long list of benefits. And some of them will only have 3 to 5 on there too. And it's a lot of times the team and I will encourage them list as many as you possibly can. If you want to have 15 benefits on there, it's only going to show that candidate what you offer. So the more the merrier on the benefits list. So yeah.
Got it. All right. And then you guys create just one job ad, a couple for folks, or how many?
Do 2 job ads, yep. So they can use one and bank the other one for a position that they wanna hire in a month. Um, I mean, but yeah, two job ads ultimately.
All right, fantastic. Yeah, so if you with any job ads like me, and you just don't want to do it, you just come around, skip it maybe. Reaching out to the person in their team to have them begin the process of creating job ads, but that's not all that you all do. So I'm sure we'll get into more about what that looks like. But all right, really the next stage there, because once you have sort of you've got the uniqueness, you've got the attractive verbiage, you've got everything that you kind of need and responsibilities and requirements, but I don't think, candidates probably aren't looking at that first, right? I would say that it's more along the lines of compensation and benefits. So when you're helping agents create the job ad, how are you helping them sort of know what they need to do to be competitive?
Yeah, so that all comes down to the job market research that we do. So each client that signs up with us gets their own job market research. Shannon and I will go through and do that. That could look at the number of competitors they have in their area. It could look at the average household income. What's the average salary listed in their area? Are they looking for licensed, unlicensed? What type of benefits are they offering? All of that information goes into writing the job ad and before we post it as well too, to really make sure that they're competitive in their area, but all stand out as well too.
All right. And then, we talk a lot about sponsorship here too over the last 12 months, last year. It comes up quite frequently as something that's, recommended and help you get in front of more candidates. The conversation I want to have here is if I sponsor my job ad, but I don't have the right compensation package for my area, can I still expect to get a good number of applications, or does it come down to, that compensation, that benefits package is still going to hold important there?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say you're still going to get applies to your job ad. You're still going to have that placement. But not having the correct compensation, not having, the benefits on there, even sometimes the correct verbiage on a job ad can really hurt you and really limit the number of applies that you're receiving, even if you are sponsoring. So being in line with that market research really helps with that as well too, and kind of determining let's make sure the verbiage is correct, so that way it's in line with that sponsorship as well too. So, yeah, you're still gonna get applies. Can you get as many with incorrect compensation or lower compensation? No, and that's really where the market research comes into a really big play with that.
Makes a lot of sense, right? And I'm sure some folks on here, they're posting their job ad organically, and maybe they just, put a compensation plan on there that didn't even know if it was competitive for their area. We see this happen a lot. And
Yeah,
then they're still getting applications, right? But I think that what you're saying is that it will only better your chances of getting in front of more people.
absolutely, absolutely.
Oh, okay. Great. All right. Fantastic. And I think too, to note before I guess move on to the next step is expectation, right? Like we want people to have the right expectation. Too many times, you'll see those job ads that have like 40,000 to 150,000. And, maybe our agency or our business is struggling with retention. And it could be because on the job that they applied to, they see that it's, 40 to 150,000. They're not thinking about 40. I don't think, right? They're thinking about 150. At least we don't think. But
Mhm.
then within getting into our business, getting into our organization, when they see that that's not possible, oftentimes it could lead them to start looking for something else. So I think it feeds into expectation too a little bit. I'm sure you have that conversation. No?
Yeah, absolutely. So we really focus on what's obtainable for the first year for them. What is not only the base salary, but based on production goals that you have in place for that individual or bonus opportunities or whatever those metrics are that you want them to meet. What's the minimum and then what's the maximum? And you can incorporate that in the salary range. That's also a great topic to talk about in the job description as well too. So setting those expectations up front as well and being transparent about that. If you have a year 3 employee that's making $150,000 because they've been there for 3 years, they've built those relationships, their network, that's because of that, right? It's not because they came right out the gate and hit the ground running. They built that. So making sure that they have those expectations set, making sure that the salary range that you're listing is obtainable for what they can reach in the first year. So,
Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. And I think it's important to note too here that, Faith, for you, it's not as if you're meeting with like a handful of agents, right? Like you're meeting hundreds of agents
yeah.
annually, right? Throughout the years. So this isn't a sample size that's like, hey, now a few people have said this, right? Like it's hundreds of people that Faith and her team are working with and supporting. So it's important to know that, if you're finding yourself with these difficulties or Maybe you're doing these things that you're seeing success with. Great. Continue to do it if you're seeing success. Or, hey, it's time to change, and maybe scheduling a consultation should be a good thing for you. But I do want to remind our audience here, if you guys do have questions, don't be shy about using that Q&A section, right? Like, we want to answer your questions too that are specific to maybe the issues that you're facing or the problems you're having. The only way for us to be able to help you with that is for you to ask the question. So please feel free to ask the questions in there. We would love to get them answered. But Faith, over the last 6.5 years since you've been here, of course, that was pre-pandemic, right? What's one of the main things I'm sure that you've seen change is candidate communication, right? So, how that's sort of evolved, how that's changed from 6 years ago to now. Talk to us a little bit about that, and talk to us about how your team supports businesses and agencies with taking that off their plate.
Yeah, I would say pre-pandemic, it probably was a lot of emails. Maybe some texting, probably a good amount of phone calls. You weren't really probably doing Zoom interviews at that point. You probably were doing in-office interviews at that point. So that's shifted, right? So now everything is pretty remotely where you're doing Zoom interviews or you're having 15-minute phone conversations. So really what my team and I do now is we do all of this. We do calls, texts, and emails to get in touch with candidates. So I mean, it's sending text messages, it's making outbound phone calls. Hey, thanks for replying. It's email communication, and it's consistent as well too. It's not just one phone call or one text message or one email. It's 2 to 3 of each of those to really make sure that they know we appreciate you applying. This is the first step. Making sure that they know exactly what's happening in the interview process. They have all of the knowledge that they need, so they're not going in blindly either. So making sure that they have all that information as well too. So being a lot more flexible with as time changed. So
No, absolutely. Right. And I mean, I believe I saw a stat that says that texting is about 60 times faster than emailing. You feel like that's true?
yeah, absolutely.
You
People
don't-
are always on their phones. They're like, oh, I just got a quick text. It's easy.
yeah, yeah, yeah. One of our new folks, Steve, shout out to Steve. He asks a great question because he asks, when we're doing role plays and things of that nature, he's always like, hey, if I were to send you a text or send you an email, which one are you looking at first? Like, it's just a simple question, right? It's very,
Yeah,
you're like, yeah, so it's important I propose doing both. And then, is there any part of that process where you're communicating on behalf of the agencies, where you're asking the candidates about their preferred way of contact, and then sort of how do you go through that process?
absolutely. So one of the obviously they're gonna get emailed and called and texted. But in one of the text messages, we will ask them, if they do respond via text, we will ask them, do you want us to text you? Would you prefer a phone call? And then just depending on what the preference is, then we'll continue with that method. A lot of people, I will say, it's kind of I don't wanna say a lot of people, I would say mixed between texting and emailing. We will get candidates that appreciate a phone call, or listen to the voicemail, things like that, and that still goes a really long way. But yeah, we will reach out and say, "What's your preferred communication?" So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's great, because I think that it's good. I think you've mentioned, most people prefer either phone or text or
yeah.
email. Some people prefer a phone call. Great.
Yeah.
But it's important to have the option of all three,
Mhm.
right? Because as you mentioned, like, let's say we have 100 candidates, 45% of them want to be emailed, 45% of them want to be texted, and then the remaining 10 want to be called, but we're
Yeah.
not texting them. We're missing out on 45% of the candidates then, right? Just by that, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, cool. So doing all three, and I'm sure it depends on the job ad you post and the agency and the candidates that apply, depending on that split up, right? Sometimes it's probably 60% text, 30% email, 10% call, or however you want to split it out. But nonetheless, you're missing out on a certain percentage of those applicants if you're only doing phone calls, only doing emails, or only doing texts, right?
Yeah, a lot of times too, even if we're texting or emailing, we'll get the responses that we need for whatever we're asking of them. Phone
Yeah,
calls, normally there's a genuine conversation that actually happens. Hey, these are the steps that you have to take. A lot of feedback that we get from candidates is just thanks for calling me. I really appreciate you even just calling and explaining the process and knowing what I should be doing or what my next step is. So they're a lot more genuine on phone calls.
for sure. I mean, you hear about if you frequent social media like I do, I'm an addict when it comes to the social media. But I see a lot of stuff, of course, on my feed about candidates, right? How they feel as if the job market is very difficult. And that's probably weird for a lot of agents that are on here to hear because they're like, what do you mean it's hard for the candidate? Like, I'm having a hard enough time getting from qualified people, right? So I see as if there's a little bit of a disconnect there, but I feel as if a lot of folks just gravitate towards larger organizations that have a tumultuous process that leaves them hanging, right?
Yeah.
So when a process is incorporated where there is good communication facilitated, right? And it is regular communication, it gives clear direction, it gives clear expectation. People appreciate it because they're not seeing it very often.
Yeah.
Right. So again, that's helping you get more candidates through the pipeline too. But we do have some questions here. I don't want to leave some people hanging, especially since one of them is my good friend Scott Fisco. Scott, I hope you and Didi are doing well. It was good seeing you just a couple weeks ago. But Faith, he asked for your direct phone number. So if you want to share that first,
Perfect.
we can either put it in the chat, we can send it to you directly, Scott. Faith, whatever your preference is, if you just want to say it, you can just say it too.
I will, I'll send it to Scott actually. Then it's easier. It's on paper. But if anybody else does want it, then let me know and I can send it out to you. I have no problem with that. But then you're not rushing to find a pen. So
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. Scott, we'll get that emailed out to you as soon as this wraps up. So you should see that here in just a little bit. And then Craig did ask, so is the virtual agent an additional fee? So the virtual hiring assistant program, Craig, is an additional program that is in addition to your IdealTraits account. So if you already have an IdealTraits account, you can look to enroll in the virtual hiring assistant program. We'll talk about this a little bit later, but the spots are pretty limited. There's only a couple spots open right now. And I'm sure Faith will give us some direction on that again in a little bit. But it is an additional program. It does come with an additional fee, and we'll break down all of that stuff for you here over the remaining 20 minutes. So stay with us because, again, all of these things are incredibly important, and taking a lot of this stuff off your plate, you'll see obviously is a massive benefit. But all right, cool. Thank you both for your questions. And all right, Faith. So candidate communication, we're good there. You're calling, email, and texting the candidates to get them to complete the assessment. You're calling, email, and texting the candidates to get them to complete the video interview as the next two stages. So talk to you a little bit about the importance that you've seen in the assessment, the importance that you've seen in the video interview, both good and bad, like good experiences with the assessment, like good outcomes, and bad ones where people have maybe gone against it or hired someone they shouldn't have. Maybe, I don't know what that looks like. Of course, it's going to depend on the business and the agency, but you get the point of my question, I suppose. So I'll just turn it over to you.
yeah. So I would say a lot of people you mentioned making a bad hire because they're not looking at the assessment, or maybe they don't fully understand it even, and they're looking maybe at just the resume. They have somebody that has a couple of years of experience or even multiple years, and they're like, great, this is awesome. But maybe it could be somebody that really should be in a sales role if you're hiring for service, or vice versa for service and sales. So that's probably the number one thing when it comes to a bad outcome. Good, I mean, you know exactly who you're hiring, to be honest. You know what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. And another nice thing about the assessment too is you know exactly how to communicate with them as well. You know, how you communicate with a perfectionist is going to be vastly different from how you communicate with a sales leader. How you give them constructive feedback or constructive criticism. All of those are a major part of the assessment that really help with that as well, not just hiring them. So it's important. Use it. Well, obviously, the team is here to help kind of depict that and understand it and help you understand it and know exactly what the assessment is for and knowing what the numbers mean and all of that. So I would say emotional based on resume is probably the poor. And then good is knowing how to communicate with them and knowing their strengths and their weaknesses.
Sure. Yeah. And I mean, Harvard Business School did a study with businesses across the country, and they said they looked at the turnover when employees were leaving. 80% of the time, when there's employee turnover within an organization, it's due to a lack of cultural fit versus a lack of skills based fit.
Mhm.
So a lot of times, the employee might have the skills necessary for the job,
Yeah.
they just don't fit with the dynamic that's present within the office. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. In terms of statistics with the assessment, where do you have statistics towards like someone who's not participating in your program versus someone who is? Is that something?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say assessment-wise, specifically, somebody who's not on the program is looking at about a 35% completion rate for the assessment. Um, Somebody that's on the program that has all of the candidate engagement involved with it, those calls, texts, and emails that we talked about, they're at a 50% completion rate. So
Percent.
quite a big jump there between with and without.
Yeah. So it goes up about 15 to 20%. So again, when we talk about bettering our chances, getting more candidates to complete the assessment, your candidate communication does that, right? And we most likely see, you mentioned 35 on the completion of the like with an account that doesn't partake in the hire or virtual hiring assistant program. That's most likely due to the candidates not being reached out to, right? Because it used to be to where the philosophy was, if someone doesn't complete the assessment, I don't want to talk to them, right? And of course, you still want that process and you're still able to hire, you're still able to go about it. That's your process, right? But if you're sitting there and you're listening and you're like, man, I really wish I had more people completing the assessment. We talked about calling, emailing, and texting is a good way to be able to do that, giving the option of all three. And if you feel as if you don't have enough time to do that, Faith, I think that's where you and your team set then, no?
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to the assessment between manual calls, manual phone, or manual calls, manual emails, and manual text messages, and there are some automated emails as well too. They get contacted up to 13 times to complete the assessment, and that's just the first step of the program to get to that 50% completion rate. So lots of communication to them. So
For sure. And then what do you do with candidates who don't complete the assessment? Do they just get deleted from accounts, or are you still reaching out to them, or what do you do from that? Do you just archive them?
So we do archive them because we have reached out to them 13 times to do that assessment. If they do come back in the future and complete it, we'll continue them through the process. But for somebody that does not complete the assessment, they'll go into archives. They'll stay in that client's account if they do want to refer back to them or look at their resume. That really is the only thing that they have since they haven't done the assessment. They can. They won't get deleted or taken out. So they'll just go into the archive folder ultimately.
Got it. Okay, cool. So then they can still reach out. Like if I'm like, hey, I'm going to go back, because something that I think is really smart. I can't remember who exactly the agent was for Success Filing, but it was talked about where they have like they've been using IdealTraits for a decade, and they have a bunch of candidates built up into their archive. So what they'll
Yeah.
do is they'll, you know, start reaching out to those folks that maybe applied 3, 4, 5 years ago in a very automated way. So it's not taking a lot of time. And they'll just pepper them. I think it was Jeremy Olson, actually. It might have been. I don't want to misquote that and throw that on him. But I believe he goes back to his archive and he reaches back out to those candidates. And if they didn't reply today or last month, that doesn't mean they're not going to reply 6 months from now. And if they're a good employee, I'm going to give them a chance to interview again. Right. So it allows them to sort of still reach out to those folks later if they'd like, I'd imagine, after you
Absolutely.
communication points. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something Shin and I will go over with them. Just because we weren't able to get a hold of them, you might have luck getting a hold of them potentially to talk about the assessment, and they're always in your account too. So if it is, like you mentioned, 6 months down the road, if it's a year down the road, potentially you always have those candidates to go back and look on. So yeah, absolutely. Why not?
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. Perfect. And then video interview. And Corinne, I do see the question that you asked here. We'll get to that in just one second. But in terms of the video interview, so they complete the assessment. The next stage is on the video interview. A lot of people on here are like, what are you talking about? What's a video interview? We're like, hey, I've been using that. I'm not getting a lot of people to complete it. Or some people are equipped in their account and they just don't know how to get started. So talk about what you see as the importance there. And then, of course, I'm a religious believer in this tool based off of what we do for our hiring. So I can talk about it a little bit too. But I want to
Yeah.
start as our guest.
Yeah, so so the one-way video interview is what Nolan's talking about. That's included in the virtual hiring assistant program. So after a candidate completes the assessment, they are sent a one-way video interview, uh, set of questions, up to 5 that they can complete ultimately. And the team is calling on that as well too. So between automated emails and then manually sent emails and then outbound calls, they're being reached out to up to 11 times to do the video interview. Um, without the video interview and VHA, I should say, we're at a 36% completion rate. When you're on the program with VHA and you have video interview, we're at a 69.2% completion rate. So that's an even bigger jump than the assessment. So
Way bigger. Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, again, as I mentioned, I am a religious believer. So to
Yeah.
give everybody a little bit of context, I know Ideal Traits is an insurance agency, but it can translate because we're all looking for good qualified salespeople. Ideal Traits, we hire remotely, people all over the country. I post a remote job ad through Ideal Traits. for a software sales representative, I get 500 applications. And um, Faith knows that by heart because her and her team are the ones who are communicating with the candidates.
Yeah.
2 times to get them to complete the assessment, 11 times to get them to complete the video interview, again, times 500. So um, with the assessment, I obviously am able to narrow it down there. Um, Personally, looking for closers, persistence, sales leaders, and salespersons. Those are the 4 personalities. I think this is what we have what it's set up to for that. But of course, you're sending every candidate through to me once they complete the assessment and once they complete the video interview. So then I'm able to sort of make my final decision. But it really is great because the video interview, just because someone's a sales leader or just because someone's a persistent, and again, as we talk about every month, persistent is the best ideal traits personality.
Yeah.
No bias here.
Mm.
Yeah, biased. There is bias. But the reason why I think it's so great, because I'm able to filter through that. And then based off of personality, so I'm able to narrow it down in the video interview completed section. I'm able to narrow it down to those 4 sales personalities if I'm looking for salespeople. And then I'm able to watch the video interview. So I'm able to see them and hear them. And I selected the 5 questions. But do you guys have templates for agents to use, or
Yeah.
did they select the questions? How does that work?
Yeah, so actually in the internal account, we do have you have 5 selected. You don't even have to do 5. You can do up to 5. 5 questions is the max number, but I have some clients that do 1 to 2, honestly, and I have some that only do 3. But they do have a whole list of templates or questions to choose from. It's gonna sound a little overwhelming. There's about 100 in there. So it is a little bit overwhelming, but if you do take your time and know kind of in general what you wanna ask during that video interview, it's helpful. But yes, there are templates in there.
Yeah, well, I'm sure too that this is something that you or Shane would go through with them, no? Like
Absolutely.
templates or thinking. Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. I mean, again, like I can't stress it enough. Like the video interviewing tool alone
Mm.
is there. So if you're not using it, at the very least, you should be using it. Because too many times the conversations I'm sure that you'll have, Faith, and that we hear just in general, I suppose, for all of us at Ideal Traits, including yourself, is candidate ghosting or candidates showing up and then they're not a good fit within the first minute, right? Which we've been in both of those places before, and
Yeah.
it still exists and most likely isn't going to go away. But the amount of times I've been able to be like, based on the resume, based off their assessment, I might have interviewed this person, but the video interviewer is telling me that maybe I should consider other candidates at this time. So I'm sure that's. Do you review video interviews with agents? Are you willing to do that as a part of the package, or
If they request it, we don't separately Shane and myself don't separately go and review video interviews, but we do have some clients that will ask, "Hey, can you just take a look at this? It looks like this is my question, but this is how they answered. What are your thoughts on this?" And a lot of times too, you can get interview questions from those answers as well too, from a follow-up interview as well too. Same thing with the assessment as well. But
what's
yeah,
the
that is something if it's requested, yeah, we'll go over it with them.
with them? And then can they schedule with you once a month, once every other week? How does it work?
Preference, honestly, we have some that Shane and I talk to every single week, and that's just they prefer that more hands-on approach. So we do talk to them. Some like to do like a couple times a week, but some will do bi-weekly, once a month. It's really based on their preference, their comfortability level in the Ideal Traits account as well too. Um, Most will start off with every week, but then once we start to get into a rhythm of applies in the account, video interviews, things like that, they're comfortable with navigating and tagging and rejecting or scheduling interviews, then we will move to like a bi-weekly, once a month type of schedule.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I got you. All right, cool. And let's get to Corey's question here because I'm sure she's been patiently waiting. Hopefully, I'm saying your first name correctly. But she asks, what is the average time it takes when working with this hiring program from setup to get someone hired and on board? What's your average
Yeah.
there?
Yeah. So on average, we have a client on right now the program for about 2.5 months.
2.5 months. Yeah. And that's, I'm sure is subjective, right? So like if you're looking for someone
Absolutely.
who has licensed in office commercial line experience, you're probably seeing that go a little bit over the average. But then if it's someone who's just like, hey, I need a remote salesperson, it's probably a little quicker.
We've had hires from startup to being hired 2.5 weeks before we've seen it. So it is possible to do it shorter. It just depends whether that's entry level, customer service, unlicensed, number of years of experience. Obviously, that goes. Those are a lot of factors that go into it. But we've seen the shortest 2.5 weeks to 2.5 months is kind of where we're at for time frame right now.
Yeah. It, I'm sure you have a good mix of agents who do this consistently, like all throughout the year. They won't hire without it. And some that, do it for the 2.5 months, hire, and then get off and come back to you when they're ready to hire more. But if you look at 2024, which is of course the first full year that the virtual hiring assistant program has been around in Ideal Traits,
Mhm.
if you think about the agent that hired the most people throughout the year, tell us a little bit about their story and how they go about their hiring.
They were on the program for the entire year, actually. So they hired consistently 2 to 3 to 4 every month. And they were on it year round. And they also had a sponsorship set up every single month as well, too. It was set up as recurring versus one time. So it was just, oh, job ad was always up, sponsorship was always attached. And the program was always on. So there was just a pretty much just a bench line of candidates waiting to be reviewed and interviewed and hired ultimately. So
I'm even curious. Who are you talking about? I'm
I'm
curious.
talking about Leonard.
Oh, very fantastic. How many people did he?
Oh gosh, in 24, I think he made over 30 hires at that point. But when I had talked to him last, yeah, it was
Dang,
quite a lot. He had a big year in 2024. So
big year, growing the stand, right?
and
And
that's just somebody that I worked with. Shane, of course, obviously has clients of his own that he's worked with as well. That I'm sure he
yeah,
can attest to that as well.
yeah, we heard a lot of good things about Shane. So equally as great too. If you need some testament to that, go back to Success Spotlight with Lita Hankins, where she talks about working with Shane, and she will give you insight into what that experience has been like if you're looking to hear it from an agent themselves, or of course, as Faith had just mentioned, I'm sure Lennart would be able to tell you about his experience, how he was able to hire 30 people. But that stems from using his Ideal Traits account, letting us do the heavy lifting for him, and bringing candidates to him when they're ready for him to review. Right? I would imagine that's how it's working.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hmm.
All right. Fantastic. All right. Well, Faith, as we get close to time here, I really like to wrap up by just talking about best practices. So you work with a lot of agents, as I mentioned at the beginning, that are in all different stages of their hiring. And we see that here on the Success Spotlight today. We've got some agents that are just getting started, some agents that have been doing it, maybe not getting the results that they desire, and some that are doing pretty good, but are looking for opportunity to get better. So, what are a couple of the things that you recommend as non negotiables as a part of a hiring process that you would say, like, let's say you were to go out and you were going to go look for three insurance sales producers tomorrow, and I need to hire three people. What are the couple things that you're going to do to make sure that you get set up for success when doing so?
Yeah, I'm gonna be on the VHA program so I can be quick on turnaround time. I have to.
Hmm.
Um, Time is a big thing when it comes to hiring, and it's sometimes that can be a strength, but it also can be a weakness. So if you're taking 3 to 4 days to review a candidate that has done the assessment and has done the video interview, they could have already accepted an offer from somebody else. So that's a big thing. Sponsorship too. That's a huge thing. The visibility that you're getting, the placement, the number of applies that can come from that. That's a big thing as well too. So too, I will also say, um, your job ad and the content of it is going to be important. So I know we talked already about compensation. Do your market research on that, or have Shane or myself do it as well. So those are going to be really big things as well too. So
Yeah.
I could go on, but I'll give you those.
That's a good place to start, right? And I mean, again, we hear that a lot. Sponsorship. If you
Yeah.
go back and you went and listened to the 12 success spotlights before this, almost every single one of them is going to talk about the importance of sponsorship. It isn't something that you need to do year round, right?
Yeah.
But it's something like Leonard was doing. I think he said he has it set up at reoccurring, but it can
Yeah.
be something you do when you are aggressively looking to hire people. Because if you're looking to make it happen faster, sponsorship's going to get you in front of more people faster, right? And then also too, when it comes to candidate communication, as Faith mentioned, enrolling in the virtual hiring assistant program, if you're looking for it to happen faster, if you want more candidates completing the assessment faster, if you want more completing the video interview, if you want more candidates to review, the virtual hiring assistant program, the communication that we do on your behalf is going to make that happen, right? Because if you're just trying to shoulder it all yourself, it becomes too overwhelming. But I think that's really good advice. And I do want to remind everybody too, at the beginning I had thrown it in, and I did just throw it in again now, is that we started a new referral program about a month ago. So if you do have agents that you know or business owners of any kind that could benefit from Success Spotlight or benefit from just Ideal Traits in general, fill out that form, put Success Spotlight in the notes, and then we'll send you an Amazon gift card, $20 for tomorrow. So each time you fill it out, you'll receive that gift card. So take a second to do that. If you know someone who could benefit from Ideal Traits or just Success Spotlight, we'd be happy to get in touch with them and try to help them out as well. But Faith, I know we got this question earlier from Craig. So let's talk about what it takes to enroll in the virtual hiring assistant program. So as I had mentioned before, for all of you that are listening, you do have to have an active Ideal Traits account in order to enroll in this program. So if you don't have an Ideal Traits account right now, we would need to set you up on that first, and then could get you enrolled in the virtual hiring assistant program so then Faith and our team can start working it for you. But if you do already have an account, then Faith, what does it take to set up the virtual hiring assistant program?
Yeah, so you can give myself or Nolan a call, and we can really kind of go over the specifics of the program. I know we went over quite a bit throughout this entire session, but we'll go over the specifics of that, and then ultimately get you started. So we will obviously process payment, and I'm sure everybody's like, "Well, what's the cost of that?" So two kind of costs associated with the virtual hiring assistant program. The first one being the startup fee, and that goes over that job market research that we talked about. That also goes over the 2 custom job ads that we write for you as well. That startup fee is 598. It's a one-time fee to cover the cost of those couple of things. And then it is a recurring 599 subscription, monthly subscription for the candidate engagement of it all. And then, of course, the hiring consultations with myself for Shane throughout the month too. So, yeah.
Fantastic. All
What
right.
did I miss? Did I miss something?
Well, the folks out here that are a part of the Ideal Traits team know
Mm,
that deal.
I
So,
know.
Faith, for the folks that are on here,
Yeah.
virtual hiring assistant program, any, I know you mentioned the startup fee. Any deals that you can provide to the great people that are listening here?
Absolutely. I will say, we will waive the startup fee actually for the people that have that are on the webinar. So, if you do sign up on the virtual hiring assistant program, we will waive that startup fee. You will still get obviously the custom job ads, the job market research, but we will waive the cost of that for you.
There we go. All right. You have it. Is there a deadline on that? End of the day?
Ooh. And it's
So
tomorrow. Give me some time. I think end of tomorrow.
Faith's generous. All right. Fantastic. Well, you have till tomorrow, right? To be able to reach out. Feel free to call us just directly at Ideal Traits. As always, I do put my direct phone number there in the question and answer as well as my email. Reach out if you want to get started. We can get you locked and loaded. And really, even if you don't want to start till like if you're going on spring break next week with your family or whatever, and you don't want to start till the week following, we can save your spot. We just got to get that logged in. And again, we'll waive that startup fee based on Faith's generosity. And then I do know that Todd is on here. So our CEO is on here. He's listening, he's watching, and he's not going to like this. But what I'm going to do, in addition to that too, as well, is for anybody, the first 5 people to reach out and get started before tomorrow, or sorry, before the end of the day tomorrow, when enrolling in the program, they also get $100 Amazon or Visa gift card as a part of enrolling too as well. Okay. So there you go. Had a couple of reasons to make it happen either today or tomorrow, but then in addition to that too as well. If you do have that referral form, it's an opportunity for you to make some more Amazon money too. So fill it out 5 times, reach out to virtual hiring assistant. That's $200 in Amazon. You can buy your spouse something nice. But let's get back onto a little bit of best practices. So Faith, it's been 45 minutes. We're coming up on time here. So as I ask every Success Spotlight guest at the very end, tell us your number one piece of advice that you would recommend to any agent that's looking to hire right now.
Yeah. I would say, don't sell yourself short. There are certain things that you should be proud of, whether it's awards, how you started the agency or your office, or whatever that process looked like for you. And don't take that for granted. But don't sell yourself short. Explain that in the job ad. Explain that in the interview. Those are things that set you apart and make you unique. And a candidate that you're looking to hire could really appreciate knowing that and working for somebody that's like that. So
That's probably the most wholesome advice that we've received or teams. But it is very true, folks. Do not sell yourself short. Your agency, your opportunity is a destination, and candidates should want to work for your own. We just have to make it apparent to them that that is the case. So give us a call, whether it's me directly, Ideal Traits, or Faith directly. to get started with virtual hiring assistant, do us a favor, fill out that referral program. If you know of anybody that we could help, and immediately following the conclusion of this here in just a moment, you'll be redirected to the virtual hiring assistant landing page on IdealTraits. So you can take a look at some more of the information that we discussed, as well as the pricing that we discussed at the bottom. But reach out to us, get started. We want to help you start finding more qualified talent faster. So work with Faith, work with Shane. They're the best in the business. There's nobody more capable of helping you do exactly what I just mentioned, find better candidates faster than those two. So thank you all again for watching. This is the 13th edition of Success Spotlight. We will see you in April with Allstate agent Bo Vincent. See you then.